Chair. Just give me one moment. And YouTube tells me we are live.
Perfect, and we'll call the Economic Development Committee meeting Thursday, January 18th, 2024 to order at 6:01.
I'll adopt the agenda as presented.
Perfect. All in favor? Carried.
And I'm sorry, was that Councillor Wilhelm or?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and also I'll entertain a motion for adoption of the minutes or any discussion of the minutes.
Sure, yeah. Seeing no discussion, I'd make a motion to adopt the minutes from the November 20th ECDEP committee meeting.
Perfect, all in favor? Okay, carried. And tonight we have no delegations, so moving straight into strategic thinking. And 5.1, Bert, if you can take it away.
All right, thank you very much. So just a couple of quick housekeeping issues. You may notice on the meeting agenda package, it does say the word teleconference at the top. We're working on getting that changed up so that that says teleconference and in person. We also have two members that have both called in and have said that unfortunately they're unable to attend tonight. So we'll mark absent Christian Belke and Audrey, and they both regret that they can't be here. And that moves us to the budget. So the budget that was passed by council on December 20th for 2024. And you'll see the budget document attached for economic development. That is the working part of it that we have that's in front of us. So if there are any questions on the budget, we can certainly field them now. And we have two other very important changes that have come out of the budget as well. Number one, and I know she needs no introduction, but it's my pleasure to introduce her. Joan Sleweg is our director now for community services, and economic development is now part of the community services team. So along with fire and protective services and community planning and development and all of that, we're all part of that team together, and it's very exciting to have Joan here tonight. And we've always worked really well internally with our other parts of Woodlands County, but it's just another sign that we're near the end of that economic recovery plan and back to where we were in 2019. So pretty exciting stuff. And the other part of that announcement is, of course, an administrative position was approved, and that admin person will be part-time for emergency services and part-time for economic development. It's a 50-50 split. So we're in the process of defining that job position, and then finding somebody who can handle not only the fire files, but is able to handle our hot economic development leads. There we go.
Awesome.
Thanks, Madam Chair. I just, this is kind of nitpicky, Bert, but question about, it's on page 2 of 6. It's the mileage section for, or pardon me, travel and subsistence. You've got numbers of kilometers. I'm guessing that 200, 200, 200, those are just estimates? But
Yes.
Okay.
Those were, and the idea is because, so the Global Energy Show is in Calgary, the Hydrogen Conference has classically been in Edmonton. And so that was the idea, was for budget purposes, we wanted an estimate. So that's where you have basically 400 kilometers for the energy show and 200, that's 200 one way. So yeah, we probably should have done that a little bit differently.
yeah.
Same with Calgary.
But yes, but point taken, there may be a little bit of a discrepancy there on the mileage.
Okay. So yeah, that was my point, is it looked like they were all one way there.
Oh, go ahead, Chair.
Through the chair to Bert, just looking at the memberships that we have here, the one that says Growth Alberta for $7,600, is that the Growth Rita? Is that what we pay to be part of that?
Correct, yes.
And what do we get from being part of Growth? What exactly, what's our return on investment for that amount of money?
It's a difficult question to answer because we are in a revitalization mode with growth at the moment. But the big advantage comes in that the REITs are the preferred entity that the province has laid out through the EDRAP, the Economic Development Rural Alberta Plan, for communities to work regionally on regional ideas and regional issues. So the biggest part of it is, even though we know the membership for growth is small at the moment, and we do have a growth meeting scheduled actually tomorrow for the RETA board, but then on it's either the 5th and 6th or the 6th and 7th, that Monday, Tuesday in February, we actually have a stakeholder engagement session where we're hoping to increase the membership of the RETA back up to a half a dozen or more municipalities, as well as some other associated groups. So the main intent and focus of the RETA is that that's the body that we would work with in order to work on larger regional projects. And the RETA has applied for NRED funding. One of the big projects in the last 2 years that the RETA has been very successful at was they applied for and they received funds through the Federal Tourism Relief Fund, and that was money that we used to finance and to redo the Wild Alberta website and to work with about 40 different tourism operators from across the region. The big success right now that the RETA has and is in charge of is our RETA is the first one in the province to be approved under the Alberta Advantage Rural Renewal Program. And we have actually already placed 2 people within Woodlands County with one of our Woodlands businesses through that program. So those are some of the benefits. The RETA is certainly not as big as what it used to be, but we have a very storied history with the RETA, and we do have, I think, an opportunity to work regionally with a number of our communities around us. Currently, the membership is Woodlands, Mayerthorpe, and Swan Hills. But we are on a growth path, and we are waiting to hear from the province on some more sustainable provincial funding for the RETAs and that kind of thing as well. That's been part of what's hampered us over the last couple of years. And because there hasn't been the internal funds within the RETA, it hasn't had its own staff person. What's happened is the RETA has been basically a board operated, a board run kind of a thing, and then where possible, we've relied on municipal staff, including myself as EDO for Woodlands, to do some of the things that the RETA would normally be doing separately and on its own.
Councillor Dean?
Thank you. So, I guess, without sounding too negative, but to be blunt, really, for the last 3 or 4 years, there really has been no return, right?
The big return certainly would be, I mean, we got over $90,000 for the TRF fund. And then based on the conversation that we had with our business community last year, the way that the rural renewal program was structured, the best opportunity for us was to make sure that we were partnering with an urban municipality, because we needed to have some settlement services that were built into our application under the rural renewal program. That's all kind of changed and everything because they made some fundamental changes to the program. But at the point in time last year when we needed to apply, for us, applying and going through the RETA was our best option. And that's, I think, certainly been one of the big RETA wins. And it's maybe something to mention at the next council meeting as well, because we do have 2 councillors that are currently sitting on that body. And I know both Councillor Kulkin and Councillor Prestige have some other things that they want to report back to council on as well.
Right, but so what comes back to the municipality from that TRF fund?
So from the TRF fund, of those 40 or so operators, we had about a half a dozen of them that were within Woodlands or that have a Woodlands presence that we were able to work with to get them a listing, to publish the guide through Wild Alberta. You know, as I said, without them having their own staff, we haven't been able to do historically the last couple of years the activities and the things that we've normally seen and done. And so it's very much been kind of stay the course, be part of the rebuilding, and we'll know after this meeting in February where the rebuilding is going to go.
Okay, yeah, I think our council and this body needs to do look at that body and the funds that are spent with a pretty critical eye because, I'm a former chair of that body, and even when we had a really robust membership, there were, I don't know, probably 13 to 15 municipalities that were all contributing on a per capita basis, and, we were leveraging government funds. We really didn't do anything. And, I'm ashamed to say that, but it's the truth. We had three things that we did. One was the Career Expo that happened in Barrhead. Another one was the awards gala. And the third one was the Wild Alberta project. And it kind of stood on its own 2 feet. But what ended up happening was municipalities just didn't see the value and started to withdraw. There was a perceived value in Wild, but the body, the growth body as it was, really didn't generate any type of connections across the province or between the municipalities, and it also didn't drive any economic activity. So I really think that we need to keep an eye on that. And I know you put your heart and soul into that, and you've kept it alive. But I guess I ask the question, to what end?
Well, and again, I know the most immediate success stories within, I'll say, post-COVID are having that successful AAIP application and knowing that we've got about the last report, and again, we have a RITA meeting tomorrow, so my information goes back to before Christmas. But I know we've had about 10 or so applications that have come in of folks wanting to use the Rural Renewal Program. And we have successfully placed 2 with the Eagle River Casino. And I had a chance to actually meet and speak with both of them over the holidays. And they are both absolutely thrilled to be here. But with the way that AIP program is designed, you need to have a regional entity to be able to do it. So if we didn't have the RITA, we would not have the AIP.
Well, then why does the town of Whitecourt have one?
Well, because they have the settlement services internally. And this was the problem that happened, was when that system was first set up, you could apply as a community. Like initially they were only going to take 3 communities into that program. And then what happened was they had so many applicants that they expanded the number of applicants. And as the program grew and evolved, we've had negative feedback from a number of communities that say that the workload is much too heavy and they need to change how they do it. And you've had communities like Athabasca and Drayton Valley and others pull out that had their approvals. And that's where, by having the RITA be the lead entity, it lets us have the program for the region, but we as a municipality, we don't have to get involved with each individual application. It's something that we're paying the RITA to do that work for us. And just the return and the payoff on that is very much worth that $7,500, if not more. And on the tourism side of things, we did a complete rebrand and redo of the Wild Alberta website, and we had strategic planning meetings with Wild last year. Councillor Kulkin will have an update because he had a meeting with the Wild tourism operators on Wednesday of this week. So we'll have an update on that. I'm assuming at the next council meeting is when he's going to be talking about that. But for us to be part of that Wild Alberta entity, that's part of the Growth RITA. That's the only way that we're going to be able to be part of that regional tourism is by being part of that entity. So I know it's been, maybe limited and questionable, and it's like a chamber of commerce. If you have a chamber of commerce that doesn't have a staff, they certainly are not as functional, and they can't do as much as a chamber that is well staffed and well resourced. And I think we're over the hump. But I do understand, and I think it does make sense to certainly be very critical of the funds and the time that we've allocated. And we've put it on to a good track. We've seen some success. I think that we have more success and more ability for things to come. There's a really big piece that we have around hemp, and how that industry might be able to grow and develop and be implemented. And there's also a really big piece around, and as we've talked about around our table, carbon sequestration and carbon in general and understanding all of that. And those are things that there may be a little bit bigger than what Woodlands County can address individually on its own. And this is where the NRED application that the RITA has put in is around the idea of creating that regional carbon task force that we've talked about around our table. So I think that there's probably more to come, but I certainly do understand the comments because it has been underperforming.
Who is the representative from Merithorpe?
So from Merithorpe, you have Mayor Jabush and then Sandy Morton. And from Swan Hills, you have Dean LaBerge and Terry Kulik.
So each municipality is now sending 2 people to those meetings?
So we decided last year that they wanted both. There's always been the ability for municipalities to have their main delegate and then an alternate. And so starting last fall, they started to bring both the main delegate and the alternate so that we had more minds around the table and a few more personal resources to draw on because the board was so small. That was a decision that those board members made.
Okay, because there's an implication there to the municipality too, right?
Absolutely. My question, Bert, in relation to this is the RITAs to the next RITA to the south of us and to the west of us. What are those 2 RITAs, and is it a possibility if we were to leave Grove, can we join the RITAs, say if Yellowhead Edson or Greenview?
Currently, the nearest ones to the west and south, there is nothing to the west.
Okay.
Between us and the border, there isn't one that exists. The closest one to the north would be the Ready Rita, and they were partners with us on SideLink, but that's the Peace River area and north.
Right.
South of us, you have to get south of Drayton Valley before there's another Rita, and that would be, I believe, Cape out of Red Deer, I think, is the next one to the south of us. So this is the other reason why we have a huge opportunity for this RITA to grow. And part of it is we have new resources allocated by the province as well. Since they've combined everything into one department under JET with Jobs, Economy and Trade, what they've done is where we used to have basically 2 to 4 managers for the various RITAs across the province. We now have 3 RITA, REDS offices, so Regional Economic Development Specialists, through the JET department. One is Northwest, one is North Central, which is the area that we're in, and that's Brad Hasselback. And Brad is reasonably new, and then there's another lady that covers from Lloydminster up to Fort McMurray, and then there's a manager that covers the 3 of those. So we even have more provincial resources to draw on. That it just kind of explains the importance of the RITAs to the province. And as you read through and you look at the EDRAP, when you go through that document, anytime you see the word regional in there, the implication is that they want that to be through the RITAs.
So I think my takeaway from this would be that if there's an opportunity in the short term that we're having discussions with on a provincial level when it comes to funding for the RITAs, then we want to make sure that we're expressing that RITAs receive funding for management. So, because it seems like if they had have been able to retain management throughout this process, then it wouldn't have been such a burden on us and we would have been getting more return for our value.
As you go through the recent history of the RITAs, the way that the funding model has worked is, Ellen, back when you were involved, I believe there was about $150,000 per year that the RITAs were receiving. That dropped to $50,000 per year. And now we're back up to 120, and the hope is that as we move into this next budget cycle, it's going to be almost double that. And those and through there's a group of the executive directors / board chair of each RITA. They have a monthly meeting that they attend, and they advocate and work with the ministry to determine what the next funding envelope and that kind of thing would be. And so, I mean, if we have questions, I'm certainly not the expert on all of this, but if we want to ask our RETA chair to maybe come and be at one of our future meetings, because our invoice will probably be coming out sometime in the next month or so. Or if we have anyone around this table, we do have room to send 2 attendees to that meeting on February 5th and 6th for the stakeholder engagement. And if anyone from here would like to attend, we certainly have the ability to send people other than just who our set RETA delegates are by council. So, I mean, there's certainly an opportunity to learn more, and it is a big investment. We do need to make sure that we are protecting our interests and that it's serving the things that we need it to serve. But I really do think that in the last 2 years, even though things have been limited, those success stories of the TRF and of getting approved on the AAIP Rural Renewal Program were pretty big successes.
Councillor Dean?
So I need to clarify something with respect to the AAIP program. When the decision was made by council to ask Growth and thereby you to complete that application, there had been repeated questions from both the casino and ANC to have Woodlands complete an AAIP, if I'm saying the acronym correctly.
Yes.
And at that time, both of those companies told me, and I think you and I had this conversation, that Woodlands had the opportunity at that time to write a letter of support and have those 2 businesses apply under the AAIP that Whitecourt had. And so it was my understanding, after talking to the Whitecourt Economic Development Officer, that the process would be as simple as a letter from our municipality endorsing the companies to apply underneath that umbrella. The feedback I got from yourself and others was that that wasn't possible. So I don't know which is the case.
And there certainly was, and we did hear from not just yourself, but from several individuals, well, can you please just apply under Whitecourt? What the ministry told me flat out is no, one municipality can't apply under another municipality's approval. And so what happened is we needed to have either fully sign on as a partner and put funding into the program, or we needed to develop our own. And so when we looked at it internally through administration, we had 3 opportunities. So one was find a way that we can do our own, where we can provide the settlement services that are required under the parameters of the program. And like I said, that's since changed. In October, November, they removed a lot of that, is what I've been told. But I'll be honest, I'm not an expert on it because I haven't stayed current and followed up. I just know the RETA's got it covered, and there's a RETA committee, subcommittee that's handling it now, and I've just kind of left it to them. But so the understanding that we had was because both Barrhead and Barrhead County had been approved, and we did approach them to find out if there was an opportunity to possibly partner. And they said no, they weren't interested. There was an opportunity possibly with the town, but we didn't pursue it to a full extent. When we had the RETA opportunity open, that's what was presented to council, and council said, yes, please, let's do that. And so we were able to work through the RETA to become, because it does recognize under the program that a regional economic development body can be approved. And so we're the first RETA to apply and to be approved under that program.
Okay, thank you.
Other budget questions? Okay, go ahead, Councilor.
I missed you, as you know, I missed part of the budget conversation, so this might have been talked about there, but what does, for the $20,000 where we update our investment profiles, what does that entail? What are we doing there, just so I understand what we're spending our money on?
Sure. So the allocation that we had in 2023, what we've done, I'm waiting for the final draft of, we have an investment profile that we had done, but it was prior to when the last census data was released. So we're using the 2016 census data rather than the 2021 federal census data. And so the direction from the committee last year was let's update our census profile with the new numbers and with some other new things. And so we have that in the works. Second part of that was we did the agricultural profile. And then the third part of it is there's an opportunity for us to do a profile, and I've already contracted with TNC Publishing, the same group that did the final publishing on our ag profile, and we're going to work with our energy companies to ask each of them to provide a couple of pages on what are their local operations, what do they provide, what are the benefits that they create for our region, and we're going to put that together as a local energy guide for Woodlands. So the one is delivered, the other two are in development. For the 20,000 that's allocated for this year, we don't have that allocated to a specific project as of yet, but what I anticipate is there may be something with forestry, there may be something with carbon capture, there may be another major industry that we decide that we want to do some kind of a guide or something on, so.
So just to follow up, sorry, Bert, because I want to dumb down even more for me, like, this is a profile that we send out to industry to, why should you invest in our municipality, or?
Yes.
What exactly is it?
So if you go onto the business pages on our website, our Woodlands County investment profile is there, and it's a document that we developed actually jointly with the RETA back in 2018, and we've done a couple of updates to it since then. So on the investment profile part of it, because we don't have the RETA working with us to update it for this one, we went a little bit more in depth on some of the updates and some of the things that we wanted to do with it. So the number one thing is to update the investment profile.
Okay.
And each of those projects mentioned, they land in somewhere between that $5,000 to $7,000 range by the time we're done with all of the publishing, data gathering, and all of that. So that's where the 20,000 works fairly well. The energy guide, like I say, is underway, and we've got a portion of that's been paid for and has kind of been prepaid, so that we made sure that we can get that started. And then there's an opportunity there that, as a budget item and as an action item as we go forward with the committee this year, whatever else we decide and we recognize as a committee we would like to publish some kind of a guide or maybe do more advertising around, we certainly have that opportunity to put those funds towards that.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead, Councillor.
And just one last question, with respect to SiteLink. Shelley, you attended the SiteLink conference in Lac La Biche.
I did.
Can you compare that conference to the EDA conference in terms of value, in terms of things that you learned, what you could bring back to the municipality?
Well, they're very different, for sure. I learned lots at both
Okay.
for myself. Yeah, as far as value back to the county, I think they both add a lot of value, even for someone like me, not a counselor. I definitely learned lots, had a good chance to meet a lot of people. If I had to pick like which one, if I was gonna go to one over the other, it would be tough, truthfully. Yeah, there was lots of value with the SiteLink, I found. I met really interesting people and really got a good understanding of what SiteLink people are looking for major investments to come to your area. Like just some of those big high level metric things that I had been asking, like, how does this work? I learned a lot about that at SiteLink to understand, like, what is the next big thing if we wanted to come here? What kinds of things do we need to get out about our county? And a lot of them are the exact same things that Bert's been working on and has told me about that show up on our page. And I learned, like, for me, I think I got a lot out of SiteLink because that is my focus, right?
Sure.
I want that next big thing here. I'm not about hiring one or two people to go work at one place. Like, that's not what I think I could add value with. But I actually got a lot out of SiteLink.
Great.
You've been to the EDA, so you know, I think, what it provided. But the SiteLink opened my eyes to the big picture world. And it was, the one in Lac La Biche had everything from, like, energy people to, like, retail stuff and, like, everything in between, right? And I really didn't even understand how big a deal retail was, but, like, Fort McMurray was all over that, right? Because they're underserved in that market. But there is still lots of opportunity to understand what the site link people are looking at when they're gonna hit our website, they're gonna look at Woodlands County for maybe 30 seconds, and they need to know what they need to know in those 30 seconds. That's how important the web page is, and I really got that message from SiteLink.
Okay, awesome, thanks.
Thank you for that feedback. I really appreciate that as well, because I had some questions wondering, and specifically because I'm looking now with there being 2 SiteLink conferences, my question is basically if it's $5,000 per conference as in the budget, and then by the time we send 4 attendees and pay their honorarium and expenses, we're into those 2 conferences for almost $15,000. But based on your feedback, and if I compare that to being at the EDA conference, I know myself, I thought the EDA conference was excellent, and I got a lot out of it. So if you're putting those on the same level, then that makes me feel differently about that investment than I did before you spoke.
So the EDA, like I learned lots about what economic development at the municipal kind of world is. Like I knew nothing, like it's so different than what I did for work. So I learned lots at the EDA just about how all of this works and a lot about the different opportunities around the whole province. But I would say the biggest thing, one of the biggest things I got from SiteLink is it really is about knowing people. It is about Bert actually knowing SiteLink people that are like potentially looking for sites and stuff. They're gonna remember people from Woodlands County. These are people that, you know, a big business comes to them and says, I need to find a place to build whatever. That person is like, oh, I went to this conference and I met this person. And it really is very much like that. You need to get in front of these SiteLink selectors and be known. They need to know your face and shake your hand. And the SiteLink people themselves, that they were all about building relationships. Yeah.
Great, thanks.
Don't send people who want to like hide in a hotel room and live in a shoebox. Like that's not the kind of person you want there. You want the people who go out and like really network. Like it really is about meeting those SiteLink. And we actually went to the special dinner the first night that was just for the people who
Sponsor
had
dinner.
the sponsors or whatever. That was so worth it because you sat at a table with them and actually could have conversations about everything. Like that intimate setting was very value added. So
Is great feedback,
Yeah.
especially for who we choose, who we send to the conference as well.
you want somebody with a personality for sure. Just
That's all.
not always me, but you know.
But networking for sure.
Yeah.
You had something to add?
I was just gonna say, not always me. But no.
Yeah, but you're not introverted, Bert.
Oh, shucks, sure I am. Thank you very much for that. And you know, I really appreciate the questions from the committee. And I'm happy that we're doing this the way we're doing this under the strategic part of it, because I think one of the most important things for me has been that we've been able to kind of raise the bar on how we look at economic development from the Woodlands County perspective, right? There is certainly our small businesses are very important to us. I mean, every job is important to us. Every investment is important to us. But knowing and understanding that there is a huge toolbox of tools that we can use to be able to build the municipality, and whether our focus is, is it raising the GDP? Is it drawing in more residents? Is it retaining the residents we have? I mean, knowing that we have different tools and different metrics and different things that we can use to address and to deal with each of those things, I think is one of the things that I wanted to achieve here as the EDO, right? And not that I have any plans of going anywhere, but there's always that wheels of the bus question, which, if something happens, what has happened? Have we been able to raise our knowledge, raise our understanding, be able to be at a different level than we were at before? And I like to think we are. So, yeah.
Go ahead, Councillor Dean.
Well, and, we've used that term metrics in this meeting a couple times, and it's really, really difficult to find a metric to measure success for this committee. You look at our community services committee, and we hand out grants to community service groups. We help those volunteer organizations in our community by providing funds and other resources. So it's easy to say this is what that committee does.
Yeah.
It's not easy to say what this committee does in terms of bringing value. So the feedback that you provided, for me, is critical, because I have to say that, I was skeptical about the SiteLink. I didn't see the value. I hadn't participated in one. And hearing you articulate how you were able to glean that information and see it from a broad perspective as to why it's valuable. That for me, that really shone a light on it.
When I used to do support work for business development in energy companies, the BD guys would say, like, for basically every 100 opportunities you chase, you might land 5. And I think that's kind of what this is you need to like scattershot like a whole bunch of different things. And SiteLink is definitely one of those where you meet a bunch of different people in a whole bunch of different kind of industries, focuses, whatever, and you get your name out in front of like some big places that one day one of those is going to pay off and it's going to be the thing, but you have no idea when or what that will be. But that's why I think the effort, it is worth the effort, because the more you can get out there, eventually there's going to be something that clicks, and it's not going to be Moraine Power, it's going to be something bigger potentially. Like, I could see that potential for Woodlands.
So would it be fair to say, okay, let me back up.
Maybe I'm a dreamer, but
Well, that's all part of the process, isn't it? One of the things that I learned when we hosted the SiteLink, one of the takeaways, if you will, was something that really wasn't a takeaway for me. It was kind of like the proverbial no-brainer, that large companies are looking for a site that's ready, that's serviced, that has rail, has highway, etc. And Woodlands doesn't really have that right now. We've kind of put some irons in the fire in terms of things, but nothing's come to fruition. And so for me, it was like, well, until we have that, we're not really going to attract anything. And did you get that from
yes,
those folks?
they were very much like that. And like I say, they will go to the website, to our Woodlands County site, and they will look for what you have like that. I think we potentially have things that we could advertise a bit better, as far as, the land might not be shovel ready, but we have so much crown land that is single ownership, that with a little bit of work wouldn't take much to convert into industrial sites. We don't sell that, right? Like, I think I talked to Bert a bit before Christmas about, and I think it's later in here, about some confidential reports that were never released. And there's some real gems, I think, in there. The report itself is, to me, already dated, because the scope probably wasn't set up in the best interest of Woodlands County, because the town was involved.
Can we carry that into that conversation if you?
Yeah, there's some stuff that the county has done that we potentially could advertise better, and maybe without a lot of investment, do better as far as promoting ourselves. There might be some things there. And so, yeah, I think it is later in the agenda.
You bet, for sure. That's our in-committee session, so go ahead.
Madam Chair, just maybe a quick comment. What is exciting is we have a very clear direction from council that economic development is an important priority for our municipality. And we know that, there are some parcels of land that the county owns itself, which ideally, to have a successful project, that can sometimes be an essential part of the process. But knowing also that we have partners, if we can help to get a project to the 1 yard line, right? We might not be able to get it over because we're not the landowner, right? We may not be able to get the touchdown, but if we can get it to the 1, it makes it easier for that company that is the landowner to get the touchdown. So that's kind of the role that we're in right now, without having a lot of our own sites developed in some of that. We do have a couple of parcels of land that the county itself owns that are very good potential candidates for some great things. What is exciting is the level of critical infrastructure that we have. And that's kind of come up as a recurring theme, is that, wow, you guys are in a great location geographically and you've got some great stuff that we can work with. So this is where we still have more to do, but when we understand that economic development is process-based, we are focusing now on the right processes that are eventually going to lead us to, I'm convinced, multiple successes. But we've taken those first initial steps of beginning to understand how does site selection work, of beginning to understand how do some of these bigger processes work, of trying to make sure that we're marketing ourselves properly, which kind of goes back to that earlier question on the investment guides and on some of that, of understanding what is our unique position, what are the unique things that we have in Woodlands that we can promote that other people around us might not have. And then there's the regional component of it as well, right? Investors don't want to invest in a region that doesn't work together cooperatively and that doesn't have a regional vision. And that's part of the role that the RETA plays, is we can say, hey, yes, we're part of a regional group and this is kind of the regional strengths and these are some of these things. So we have a lot of the arrows lining up, and I think a lot of the fundamental thing that's been great is council having the vision to understand that economic development is important, that we need to understand that we need to do it through partnerships, and that we have the ability to do it and follow through on the ECDEV processes. And all of those things are all lined up through our strategic plan, through the things that the council's identified in the budget, in our strategic priorities and initiatives in the budget for 24. We have some really great grist to be working on this year.
Awesome. Is there additional budget questions? Okay, go ahead, Councillor.
I'll motion that the Economic Development Committee accepts the items presented as information.
Okay, actually, if it's okay, before we put it to a vote, I just had a couple of questions I wanted to add.
Oh, I
I was just
apologize.
asking first. No, no, no worries.
I'll retract my motion.
Okay, so in my package, Bert, it's page 9 of 36. Under economic development, there's 2 line items. One is Economic Development Committee in the 24 budget shows $24,219. And directly below it, it shows Woodlands Economic Development Committee, $26,950. So I was just wondering if you could clarify what those 2 items are, why they're on 2 separate lines.
Okay, hold on, so
What
I'm
page
making
is
sure
it
I've
on?
got the right.
In my package, it shows page 9 of 36.
Okay, 9 or 36, I think that's this one, yeah. So this is the, budget versus actuals in the 5-year average. And so that's what it is you would have one column that was, what was our 2024 budget, what was the 2023 budget?
No, the bottom 2
Line
entries, Economic Development Committee and Woodlands Economic Development
Sorry,
Committee.
I'm on the wrong page, because my 9 of 36 is that one.
In the package you printed off, it's also 9 of 36 there.
Yeah. My apologies, Madam Chair, I'll see if I can find the right one.
It's just this, it's just wondering what the difference is between those 2 values. Or
That's,
why it's separate.
that's this here, right? Yeah, okay, no, I am looking at the right page, just give me 1 second.
It looks like the same thing, but there's 2 line items.
Exactly.
Yeah, FIC, we don't fund anymore, the professional development funds are there. I'm assuming if you take a look as you move forward through the budget, so if we take a look at page 1 is the general, so that would be page 10 is the general budget. Page 11 is the economic development general budget. I'm assuming 1 is probably for the committee and 1 is the ECDEV budget, is what I'm thinking it probably is. Because the general is the 250. So let me just look at my last 2 pages.
Yeah,
here.
page
So-
12 is the first one and page 13 is the
Yeah,
second line
and
item.
so 12 is the economic development board, so that's the board, the total of the board expenses page,
Okay.
which is 24,215, which should or 24,219, which is the same as the 4th line item. And then the last page is, it says Woodlands Economic Development Committee, which is 26,950. Now, why those are laid out that way is a greater budget question than what I have the knowledge to answer at this point in time, but I'll sure inquire but that's what I'm looking at, is would be the page totals collectively of page 12 and 13 of the meeting package. And those would be individual amounts, but that would be the individual totals on those two pages.
Okay, so just for clarity, I don't know who the powers would be on that one. If going forward, it might be nice to
Change the titles.
change the titles, yes.
And I,
It's
and
certainly
I,
confusing.
yeah, and I have a feeling that might be, our budget software is really good software, but it's focused on the numbers, not focused on the headings sometimes, and so that's the only thing I can say is, but I can certainly make the inquiry as to why whether we can clear up those titles.
Okay, perfect. And then my next question was in regards to the budget for Hamlet beautification. I just was curious if that is in, like, which hamlets, how is that divided? Who makes the decisions on what flowers they buy? Like, I'm just curious, like, how that works.
So that,
Or whose input?
for ease of purpose, that is listed in the economic development budget. However, that is an Ag Service Board item, and we never deal with that, and I don't deal with that.
Okay,
They just simply use those codes to spend those funds.
okay. So is that something that can be asked to be moved to the Ag Services budget for
I
clarity?
know they had looked at moving it last year, and they were going to if they were able, and so, seeing that it's still there, I can ask and see. But usually it's the flowers for Fort Assiniboine, and that's where most of that's focused.
Right.
I think there might be some Blue Ridge expenses in there as well, but yeah, that all falls to Dawn Fortin, our manager for Ag Service.
And I'm not disputing the charge or anything, it's just a matter of if it's in the budget for
Right here.
here,
Yeah.
then,
Yeah.
exactly, then it should be moved somewhere else. Okay, and then on page 11 of 36, I just wanted to clarify the entry for the H Park, where it says that the unused $2,500 redirected to H Park. And just want to clarify that they did receive then that payment by the end of '23, is that correct?
I believe they did. I can go back and double check on the invoices, but I know that was the intent. And I can't remember whether it was a check request that I did or whether it was a print of the email that I signed off on, but I know it was submitted for payment before the end of last year.
And then is that 2,500 then reallocated in this year's budget for H Park?
Yeah, because this is the 2024 approved budget, so yes.
Okay, perfect. That's what I just wanted to clarify on that. Okay. And I just had one other question. Under, oh no, it's about Hamlet beautification, forget it. So we're good. Okay, and then actually those were my budget questions. If you'd like Councillor Wilhelm to put forward your motion.
Sure, I'll motion that the Economic Development Committee accepts the items presented for information.
Any further discussion? Awesome. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Alrighty, so that moves us right into new business, 6.1, and take it away, Bert.
Okay, thank you very much, Madam Chair, and I've got to make sure I haven't lost my order here. So 6.1, joint meeting with Whitecourt Economic Development. And there it is, page 15. Perfect, okay. Based on the committee request, I've been in touch with Rhonda Woods, EDO for Town of Whitecourt, and we are putting forward possible calendar dates, February 12th, 13th, or 15th. I know the 13th will not work, Rhonda has told me after I had put the RFD together, but the 12th or the 15th would be possibilities. A possible format would be a supper meeting with some kind of a working agenda or a more informal mixer, whatever the committee would like for us to do. And I know we have had inquiries as well, and Ron and I have kind of talked back and forth. We would certainly love to be able to put an agenda together for that event as well. And so, as well as accepting the date, if there are any agenda items that we would like to have on that agenda that the committees would like to discuss, it would be great to bring that up at the committee level and see if there's anything that's significant that we want to make sure that we're there. I think if I'm picking up on the vision that the committee has, for the meeting. The idea is we have a number of joint events this year, from the Career Expo to the BSNs. And we did have a meeting just yesterday morning about the possibility of doing some things jointly through Small Business Week. Previous to 2019, we had a partnership group of Community Futures, the Chamber of Government of Alberta, ourselves in town of Whitecourt. We had a formal partnership with a financial structure and all of that. And at this point, we're not proposing to go back to that for that October event, but the idea is we could maybe work together on some kind of an October celebration event for our business community and a mixer and all of that. So those are some of the things that sort of come to mind. Conference coverage and some of that and sharing of information might be one of the other things that the committee may want to put on. But at this point, the agenda is open for discussion as well as are the dates. And if those two don't work, we can take a look at dates in March as well. But those were the first ones that seemed to fit for both possible schedules.
Councillor Willow?
I would like it to be the 15th, the Thursday, like the date of our normal meeting. We do a working meeting or working dinner if we want to. For myself, because I'm so new to the economic development side, I don't have particularly anything I want on the agenda. I more get those discussions going and understand where the two municipalities want to head in with regards to economic development. Like we know on our sides, but getting an understanding from their side what they're looking at in the future. Okay.
Oh, sorry, Shelley first.
I also would like it to be the 15th if possible. I can't do Monday nights. So
Okay.
I have another commitment.
Councillor.
Yeah, and that date's fine. Obviously, it's convenient for us. It's already in our calendar. I'm just trying to think of what that meeting would look like. I know that the Woodlands Community Services Committee asked to have a similar type of thing with the Whitecourt Community Services Committee, and what ended up happening in that meeting was we attended their regular meeting. And so they went through their whole agenda, and we were basically a delegation there. And so our committee met, our Community Services Committee met last week, and the feedback from all the committee members were that they were really grateful for the opportunity to meet those folks, but they really didn't get a chance to meet them because they were busy going through their agenda.
Okay.
And because our committee weren't voting members of their committee, we couldn't even really participate in the discussion and vote, et cetera. So I think, like, I'd like to leave it with you and Rhonda to come up with something that's not like that. You know, that's more informal but does have some structure. And I'm sure you guys can probably come up with some ideas, some common questions that the two committees might have, and she can bring those to her committee and you can bring them to our committee. We can, even if we had to do it by email, just to make sure that people were comfortable with the agenda. Like, what I'm thinking is no more than 3 or 4 items, because the intent really is to get to know them, and maybe a presentation from both EDO as to what the plan is, the ECDEV plan for the year. And so does that make sense to you guys?
I think that sounds great, actually.
Sure.
And
Okay.
it's nice to have that other meeting that you can compare it to, so perfect.
Yeah.
And, oh, go ahead, Bert.
So, Madam Chair, and I haven't brought this up to Rhonda yet, so this is just kind of brainstorming it out to you guys first, so to speak. Some of the training events and things that I've been at through the course of my career, where it's a lot of fun, is, we were just mentioning the tools in the economic development toolkit and some of those kinds of things, right? And so, if the goal is to, be social and get to know each other a little bit, right? And if we don't want to really have a really formal kind of structure, what might be fun is we have dinner and we say, hey, here's our strategic plan, here's yours, boy, this is great, what are the cool things we can work on? Okay, we do that, but then what if we pull out a couple of case studies and say, hey, how do we handle this project together? Or hey, how do we handle this project together? And then we sit down and we have a couple of brainstorming sessions and just have some fun.
Good work.
Yeah, and I think you're getting head nodding around here. Bring that up with her and come back to us with an agenda.
Okay,
Because you've attended way more of those types of,
Absolutely.
well, and I have to admit, some of the things, you know, sometimes one of the best things you can do to appreciate what communities go through in economic development is you throw the shoe on the other foot, right? And so, you know, if we end up saying, all right, so we have company X that wants to invest and do this, but there's this and this and this, and these are their constraints, how can we solve this together? And you split us into two groups that are mixed, and everybody has their discussion and their thing, and then at the end of the night, 45 minutes later, we both present, well, here's the things that we could do for possible solutions, right? I mean, there we're working collaboratively, we're working on something hypothetical, but that gets everybody kind of in the mud, shoulder to shoulder, elbow to elbow, and we have a chance to have some fun and get to know each other.
yeah, it sounds pretty cool.
I agree.
I like
think
it.
it sounds great. Okay,
Okay, I'll put that forward.
and the 15th also works for me as well. So I have something, oh, go ahead.
So I'd be prepared to move that the Woodlands County ECDev Committee approves sending Thursday, February 15th to the Whitecourt Economic Development Committee, and that a meeting agenda be developed through collaboration. And I think we can leave that to Bert and Rhonda. But I think your idea makes total sense. Sounds fun.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Awesome. Any discussion of the motion? All in favor? Carried. Awesome. Alrighty, so moving on to 6.2, 2024 conferences.
I want to open with, man, there's a lot of them. I really trimmed down the possible ones that we could go to, because there's at least 8 others that I can think of off of the top of my head that we might have some benefit out of going to, right? So with the budget in mind and with our history in mind of what we've done over the last couple of years, the 2 that we really need to get some clarity on tonight, the one essential one is the Growing the North because of the time frame. That's February 20th to 22nd in Grand Prairie. The second is I want to give everybody a full update on the EDA conference, and I think that's a little bit later on in the work plan updates as well. But then some of the big conferences. So what we've seen is DMG Events is the kind of go-to company to organize these big international conferences. And this year Alberta is actually hosting 3 or 4 of them. So the Global Energy Show is the annual event that's in Calgary that we have attended in the past and in various forms. Sometimes we've been an exhibitor in the last couple of years. We've had at least one person there. We unfortunately weren't there last year because of some scheduling conflicts. The Hydrogen Convention in Edmonton, this is only the 3rd year for the Hydrogen Convention. I've had the opportunity to attend the first 2, and they've been very good. They're very hydrogen focused, but out of the focus on hydrogen also comes the discussion on all of the other green energy part of things, and how does hydrogen fit into the energy mix and all of that. So very, very informative. And because in Alberta, the vision is that much of our hydrogen that we would develop is probably going to be what we call blue hydrogen, which is hydrogen that comes from natural gas, a very significant thing for us to know and understand for our region. We've talked a little bit about the 2 site links, and yes, it is a little bit different this year. However, building off of the momentum that Page and Webster Global have had, they found Canada and Alberta specifically to be an area where, because we haven't entertained site selectors rurally before, he's been getting pestered a lot, which is great for our perspective because, you know, we had the opportunity to do the first one, which was awesome, but we've had now 5 other Alberta communities that have come together and said, man, we need to do one of these too. And so that's where it's really exciting. I mean, we had the one last year with Lac La Biche, and this year you have our neighbors next door in Greenview, who were one of our sponsors and who came to our conference. Greenview and GP want to host one this spring in May. And then you have Cold Lake and Bonnyville, that they attended Lac La Biche last year, and they were a co-sponsor there, but they want to host their own. And for next year, he's got Red Deer and Cape, the Central Alberta RITA. They're going to be one of the hosts, and then Fort McMurray is going to be the other. So, and then he's still doing one US one as well. So he actually has 3 site links planned for this year that Webster Global is doing. The third one is in Arizona, and he did have one last fall that was in Roswell. So, you know, it is interesting on the site link part of it. I am going to verify on the cost side of things, because when we attended last year, what happened was, yes, we did pay the sponsorship fee, but we only paid a portion of it because we paid for Shelley to attend, and then I actually attended on behalf of Infrastructure and Woodlands County because we had CYZU Airport that was one of the co-sponsors, right? So I think that I've got to have that conversation with Andre to kind of break that down to find out, do we want the airport attending and being part this year? Because it is all in the ECDEV budget, but if we don't need it all, then it does give us some opportunity to look later on in the year at some of these other conferences and at some of the ones that maybe aren't on this list, right? There was a Power Up, the North Conference that was in Fort McMurray for the first time last year, and they may be back again this year. There's the National Economic Development Conference, which we haven't attended in the last several years. And sometimes it makes a lot of sense to go to the Canadian National Conference. There's a number of IADC events, which is the International ECDEV group out of the US. I mean, you know, we could attend a conference every week probably if we really wanted to. So we have to definitely be very strategic with our time and with our resources. That being said, on Growing the North, we classically, we've sent one board member to attend. I think, Patricia, were you the one that went 2 years ago?
No.
No? It was Alessia Hellick, I think, who we sent 2 years ago.
Okay.
And then last year, who did we send last year?
We did.
Nobody.
I went.
Right. And so that's usually been what happens is we have a member at large and then possibly one of the counselors that goes. I know they had been hounding me for sponsorship and that sort of thing, and unfortunately I had to turn them down in December to say we don't have sponsor dollars for it, but it certainly makes sense, I think, for us to send one counselor and probably one of our members at large for that one, and we have the budget to do so for the member at large. For the EDA, because it's the 50th anniversary this year of the EDA conference, it's sold out very quickly. In the past, we've seen the EDA conference sell out in February, March. By the mid-December, EDA was sold out for their in-person. So prior to that happening, I'm very happy to say I was able to get us 7 in-person registrations. So we have the ability, so according to the policy and our budget, we normally would send up to a maximum of 2 of our members at large for the EDA conference. But classically, we've had the CAO or someone else from senior leadership who may want to attend. So we have that spot. My spot is registered. And then we have a spot for up to 3 counselors. And I know Reeve Cush has indicated that he may want to attend this year. But we have 2 other in-person spots for council that have been paid for and that we have set aside, and hotel rooms accordingly as well. The Kananaskis Lodge is sold out, but at the Stony Nakota Lodge, which is the casino that's on the corner there where the turnoff is, we have rooms there, and there will be a shuttle that will go back and forth between the 2 venues several times a day, according to EDA. So that's where we're at. So we've got 7 spots for the EDA conference, and we can get as in-depth as the committee would like on some of the others.
So I just want to bring to the committee's attention, Growing the North, the 22nd, council has our reorientation with George Cup. So council would not be able to go to that. And I don't know how that impacts admin as well.
Well, and I think we're probably on the same thing. I think we're supposed to be here for it, right? It was mandatory for management. Now, the 22nd, though, I think, is that the orientation night on the 22nd? So, yeah, it would just be a matter of whenever you would get there on that Thursday morning, because it's generally,
The 22nd is.
Would be the last
oh,
day of it.
is the last day? Okay, I'm sorry. We're working on pulling my calendar up here.
Would you be able to clarify a little bit, Alan, for the Growing the North Conference? I'm curious, does it have a focus to a lean to big business or to small, medium-sized enterprises?
It's a mix of all of that, but it really has a focus on northern Alberta.
Yeah.
You know, so EDA is all of Alberta,
You bet.
and hydrogen and whatnot can be global, but this is northern Alberta. So you'll get case studies from northern Alberta communities, and it's very worthwhile. But yeah, I just don't think it'll work because, for council at least, because that 22nd, I believe we need to be in the Fort Assiniboine area at 8 o'clock or, so that means we'd have to leave. You know, you're gonna miss one day for sure.
And I'd love to go, but I'm gonna be in the East Coast that time too, so.
And it's a good price too, right? You know, it's under $500.
Yes. Yeah, so Madam Chair, the roots on that conference, I believe, it started off as something that the Northern Alberta Development Council had kind of did, and they were working closely with the Grand Prairie Chamber, and the Grand Prairie Chamber is certainly the main organizer. But we have the tourism group and the economic development groups from Greenview, Grand Prairie, County Grand Prairie. I think they all play a role, and they're all involved in the planning committee on that one. So it certainly is a really good conference, and it is a good value. And if we have the opportunity, you know, if council can't attend, we know we've got some wiggle room in the budget there. I mean, that money is, it's allocated the way that we need it to be for us to attend all of the conferences that we want to. But on the board and committee expenses, if we, you know, if it makes more sense to send 2 board members to this one so we get better coverage on it, we could certainly do that.
If I remember correctly, Bert, did Kristen say that this is one that she could and was interested in attending?
Yes, so she had shown some interest in attending that as well as the EDA. And if she had to pick one over the other, it would be she would prefer to attend the EDA. But yeah, I mean, I think that we've definitely got some interest from her that she would like to attend.
Do you have any interest in the Growing the North one, Shelley?
Well, if I had to pick one, that wouldn't be the one. But the conference itself looks very interesting. I just pulled up the schedule and was looking at it. Yeah.
That might be one. I know that in bringing it up, Bert, you need to get a decision on that one pretty quickly, simply because of time. And if council is out, then I'm wondering if you would be able to reach out to Audrey maybe as well, find out if she's interested. And Kristen, I guess.
I mean, they have sessions that basically talk about all the 4 pillars that we have. There's forestry, there's mining, there's energy, green energy. There's all sorts of stuff on their agenda for the 2 days. Yeah. So it looks really cool.
And there's generally an Indigenous
Mm-hmm.
component as well.
Yeah. Yeah, and they have like breakout sessions, so you can pick 1, 2, 3, or 4 to which one you want to go to. So there's always something that will be interesting.
Okay, then I guess basically we'll have to move that discussion. If you could just reach out to them personally, Bert,
Yep.
and find out.
I
So,
I most certainly will, and I think that that's a great idea. So if we have the opportunity to send Kristen or Audrey or both, if they're willing to attend, that would be the goal for the Growing the North.
I'm available if there's no one else is able to go, but
Okay.
okay, cool. And I think that's something that we should look at as well this year. Keep in mind is there's going to be other conferences as well that it's best for the committee that you attend. I think if you're if you're interested in some of these big projects as well. So
Yeah.
so I think it could be reasonable to have one person attend more conferences than others based on their availability and interest. So awesome. All right. Well, is there any other further discussion on the conferences at this point? Go ahead, Bert.
I'm sorry.
Oh,
Well,
sorry.
just, do we need to identify who's going to EDA? Because I'd like to go to that.
Yes, thank you. That was my next question.
Oh, sorry.
So Alan, I know, as I mentioned, Reeve Cush had mentioned that he's interested. He's not sure on scheduling, but we can kind of put a question mark with him until we know for sure. But certainly, Councillor Dean, for yourself, I think that's excellent. I know both our CAO has shown some interest, and I'm trying to cajole Joan if our CAO doesn't go, and if that doesn't work, then we can take another MAL. But it just kind of depends. But we've got some room to work with there. So that gives us two. So myself, Councillor Dean, Councillor Wilhelm, would you like to attend EDA?
Put me as a tentative yes.
Okay.
It's a busy time for work then, but I'm gonna try to come. I just have to talk to my bosses and see what the capability, because we I think we have RMA a couple weeks before that.
Do we?
Yeah, so taking lots of time
yeah,
off is
it's like
tough for me in the same,
18th or
in a short
something.
amount of time, so I just have to talk to them about it first.
Well, and so we can take that back. I can check with Councillor Williams as well, and there may be other councillors. One of the things, and I'm sorry, I should have mentioned this under the strategic planning part of things, but the other part of things that's really exciting from council this year is we have 6 of our 7 councillors actively involved in our economic development organizations. That is just so cool. We've never had that before. We have the 3 of you here that are on this committee. We've got Councillor Prestidge and Councillor Kulkin that are involved at the EDA level, and Reeve Cush is our representative to Community Futures. It's great. We've got 6 of 7 councillors that are in active roles on boards and playing part of things in ECDEV. I mean, it's another one of those signals that just shows how important economic development is to this group of elected officials, which is awesome. And where I was segueing to with that is, I know Councillor Prestidge and Councillor Kulkin have both mentioned whether it's from the RITA perspective, and they attend on behalf of the RITA to bring information back to that group, or whether they attend on behalf of Woodlands. They have both told me that they're interested in each of the Global Energy Show, the Hydrogen Convention, and the Greenhouse Gas Conference. So again, we still have some time to kind of work those things through, and on the council side of it, that comes out of the council training allotment that each of our councillors have. But it's exciting that we have council showing an interest in attending, and I'm sure as you guys work through your time and schedule and everything this year, you know, those things might pop for you as well.
You'll see me at Global Energy Show. We have a booth there for Intertech, so
Awesome.
you guys come for council stuff or committee stuff, I'll be down there for professional stuff. So cool.
Awesome.
Well, you know, you can have 2 sets of business cards.
That's true. Huh? I just got to get a set that has my right phone number on it.
Gotcha. Oh, that was the other thing. Phone numbers. I have a new Woodlands County only staff phone. So I have a new phone number, which is on the email that I sent out to everybody earlier today.
Oh.
And yeah, that changed as of today. But that's we had an update to our communications policy with phones and with hardware, and so I have a brand new Woodlands County cell phone.
What's the number, Bruce? Or Bert, sorry?
It is, and this is the first time I've officially given it out to anyone, councillors, so thank you for asking, and you have that honor if you want to put that on your bucket list.
You want it on
announce
video?
it into public?
Yeah, like I said, it's on my email signature, it's been updated. It's 780-779-3557.
357. Okay.
Did our information carry over to you then? Like, do you still have that?
So
Obviously.
I still have my now solely personal phone that I still have everything else on, so that will be part of the fun in the coming weeks.
779-3557.
Okay.
Now I just have to remember to start using it religiously. That's all. That's going to be the big switch for me. So then for the EDA conference, then we have that opportunity to send the 2 members at large. And as mentioned, I know Kristen had mentioned that she was very interested in EDA. So that can certainly be one of the possible attendees, if that works. And is there another member at large that we would like to ascend or to talk to, or do we want to save that for a future meeting?
I know for myself, I'm definitely very interested in going, but I also want to leave some room for a discussion with Audrey, so,
Okay,
you know, but I'm definitely interested in going for sure. And I have an opening in my calendar currently for it.
okay, perfect. And then, okay, so that's good. So for those that are interested, please make sure you've got those dates marked down and we can go from there. And then that brings me to kind of those other three. So any questions, I guess, about any of those remaining conferences? And as I say that, I'll just simply tell you that the GHGT 17 is a conference that is co-sponsored by Alberta Energy Reduction. So we expect there'll be a strong provincial presence at that. Vault 4401 had recommended that that would be a really good one for us to attend so that we can learn more. It is a very technical conference, but it rotates around the world every 2 years. They hold it in different locales. And there is actually going to be a paper on public engagement that will be presented by Vault at that, based on some of the past successes and past things that they've done. So that was what had that one bubble up to the top of the radar and put that one on this list.
You'll see me on that one too, professionally, so.
Okay. That one sounds very interesting, I think, as well. That's probably one you'd love to.
Especially if it's a highly technical one, sure.
Exactly.
Thank you, Shelley. So Councillor Wilhelm, will you be attending then on behalf of Woodlands for that one, or is that
That'll be a work one.
okay?
So Bert, should I let you know that I'd like to attend that one now?
That would be wonderful.
Okay.
So if everyone is in favor, then what we would have would be Councillor Dean and Shelley attending for the GHG.
Perfect.
Sweet.
And then I'd like to throw my name in a hat for one of the site links. Likely the Grand Prairie one would be of more interest.
GPK. And I think it would be appropriate for me to go to each of the site links as well. Those were kind of the two NEDA that I had on my list, but there's certainly room to send someone other than the EDO if that's what we would like to do.
Based on Shelley's comment earlier, I think that if we're, attending the SiteLink conference, and like you said about it being relationships and the importance of relationships, I think having consistency in you going actually could be really beneficial for the municipality.
I
Just
agree.
because you're the face that they're seeing consistently.
And that's who they're gonna contact when they're
Cool.
interested.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So once again, thank you for that comment. It's very appreciated.
Yeah, you're welcome, Bert.
Thank you. And what about for the fall forum? Do we have someone else who may want to attend the Cold Lake Bonneville?
Not sure.
We can leave some openings too
Sure,
for
yeah.
our other two members who aren't here. Three,
And another
actually.
counselor, yeah.
Sorry.
So, coming back to the spring, so we have two attendees, and that would be you and Bert going to that one?
To this, yes.
Okay. Yeah, I would like to go to one. I just don't know what that fall schedule is like for me right now, just in terms of football and the greenhouse gas control. That works. But I'm not sure about the 18th to the 20th of September.
Super.
It should work, but
Okay, you have everything you need then, Bert, do you?
I think that's great. I think that gives us some marching orders for those first two. And it should hopefully put everybody on the same page for understanding, and that looks wonderful to me. So if we get a motion then to just, I guess, accept the discussion for information, and I've got my associated notes made here, so is that a fair way to do it?
I'll make the motion that we accept this one as for information.
Speaking to the motion, Bert, can you put me as a tentative for that fall site forum?
My pleasure. Yes, sir?
Is there any further discussion? We'll call the question, all in favor? All righty, moving on to 6.3.
Okay, thank you. So it's rolling right along here. We've got the attachment here, and I apologize. Sometimes when I move documents over from Excel, they don't always come out and print the best, so my apologies on that one. But the intent of this item is we certainly have, and we've had a bit of a discussion so far, even on the types of metrics and measurements and things that we may want to use. There is a significant amount of discussion and background and information that we can get into as we talk about metrics and talk about some of those things. I was able to dig it out. I didn't have it ready in time for the RFD, but what I will share through email, the first session that I attended in May of last year as part of the AEDL training, we actually had a presentation by Jay Moon, who is with a company called Competitive Solutions now. But he talked about and gave a presentation to us on measuring what matters and finding funding for your economic development organization. So that's a confidential presentation that came out of that training that I can share with everybody. What was incredibly interesting about it is as you get into the last couple of pages, there's a couple of interesting sort of sound bites, I'll say. So the first is that if you're not doing some kind of measuring, you never know what you're achieving. So there's certainly that is a very important part of all of this. But that being said, as we get into the metrics on what do we want to measure, right? Sometimes, yes, it seems like the intuitive knowledge is, well, we need to measure the activity to know that we're going to get the results, right? But sometimes what it is it's setting up the metrics to measure things like what is the population, what is the GDP, what is the number of businesses, what are our business starts, right? Sometimes the metrics that we're going to be using and measuring might not be the direct activity of the EDO or of the ECDEB agency, but it might be the economic performance to see what's the effect and how things are happening. And so I'll send this around to everybody to kind of take a look at, but what I love is on one of the pages here, it says the key point is the things that you measure are the things that get done. And so that's kind of the most important part of it. And I think that thread goes back through a lot of the conversation we've had tonight.
Definitely. Is there any discussion on the items here with metrics and basically, I guess just, oh, go ahead, Councilor.
Jared to Bert. So we've got a series of items here for metrics. Or did you set these up, or did you set?
No. As we were putting the meeting package together, this was provided by our board chair as some examples of some things that we can measure, this is a tool that adds on to that toolbox we've already got of where we have the strat plan, the strategic plan, the work plan items that kind of come out of the strategic plan, all of the events that we deliver each year, all of those things, right? Mm-hmm. And so, I mean, we certainly have a lot of activity measures that are already in place. It's a question of your measurements need to align with what are the goals, right? And one of the sort of fundamental things that we've been addressing over the last couple of years is event-based economic development is good to an extent, but just because we're at parades and we're at events and we're out shaking hands, that might not be the type of community marketing that we need to be doing, right? Because we're at a parade, it doesn't mean we're gonna have economic development success. It doesn't mean we don't need to be at the parade, it just means that, is that one of those parameters we need to use to measure the activity, or how does that fit into the rest of the discussion, and, right? Working regionally, is working regionally really in our best interest? It may be, maybe it isn't. You know, I mean, again, we want to know, have a firm understanding of what our goals are and what we want to achieve and what we want to hit, and then you put your resources towards those and you measure them accordingly.
Okay, and I think the purpose, and I kind of hit Bert with this just like right before the package went out, so it's not something he had a chance to really put a lot of time into. It was forwarded to me from within our group, so, and it kind of tied to some of the discussions I think that we had before about reaching out to other businesses and so on. And one of the things I noticed just recently, like in the chamber update, when they had mentioned elite and platinum member visits. That's something that we've kind of talked about as well, is that, like you said, what gets measured, we don't really have a mechanism or a metric for engagement with our businesses, or that, like, kind of as far as a report. So I think that was some of the idea behind where it was going. But I would even be comfortable with, if it's something that you could take forward and just kind of keep in the back of in your back pocket kind of thing for now, and maybe bring forward at like the March meeting. Oh, go ahead, sorry.
Complete your thought. I don't mean to interrupt you.
Oh, no, that's okay. I was gonna say, just to take some time, like in now, especially with the new person coming on part-time and so on, I think a tool like this could be developed going forward that would be very valuable and give them a guideline as well as to where they can help.
Okay, and so this may have been asked already, maybe Jeremy asked this, but the goal, like, so this is, this document is spread into two sheets, I guess. And I'm thinking, on mine at least, the second page, under total, they're all zeros, but the goal is, goal per month is listed there, either 2 or 1. Those were just kind of your best guess? Is it, you put this together?
No, I was actually forwarded to me, so it came with
Okay,
these numbers
okay,
in it, just
okay.
as an estimate, so.
So are you looking for us just to accept this as info, or is this something that you want the committee to look at and decide whether any or all of these metrics should be used and what the goal targets are?
Sorry, actually, go ahead, Councillor
I was
Rowan.
gonna say, I think this is more, so Bert's has indicated many times, like, economic development is it's a tough part of our municipality to judge successes unless you have a huge success, like, a major business comes into the municipality. So I think that this is more of a template of a framework on how we could create something where our EDO can say, okay, like, something that will work collaboratively between the committee and Bert, and say, okay, well, these are the kind of things that we want to see some successes in, and these are kind of easy things you can be, by like just contacts you've been making, or discussions that are had that can be tracked and be like, yeah, we're getting a return on investment for the amount of money that municipalities putting into economic development. Because, like he said many times, it's a tough one. You don't see ROI instantly,
Right.
sometimes not even for years, for things you can do. So to continue to justify Bert's great work, it's kind of a template on doing that. Like, what is he doing, and how is he accomplishing?
Okay, and fair, I understand that, the concept. I guess in terms of this document and how it may evolve, when the committee and Bert come up with a document that we think makes sense, then we would like to see reporting at the monthly meetings.
I think that would be
Okay.
the direction to go with it. And
So are we asking Bert to look at this and say, yeah, this makes sense, but this one doesn't, and I want to add these 3 or 4, and then bring something back to us?
I think that would be a great idea, actually.
Do you want,
Excuse
you're
me.
okay with that? You got time to do
Yeah,
that?
because I mean, honestly, from my perspective, like, some of the biggest measures, right, are things that, it's not an economic development activity, but it's a measure of the economic performance, right? So for example, population growth, right? Where are we at on population? Is our population growing or is it shrinking? And if we want to be a sustainable municipality, our population has got to be a significant factor and measure of, are we doing well or are we not doing well? And so if our population is shrinking, then what the hell are we doing to try and reverse that trend? Right? And that's something that as a group here, we've never really talked about population as one of our metrics. Building permits and investment is another really, really good one. I mean, planning and development monthly and annually give us and provide to the MPC, here's the building permits, here's a building permit report, here's all that. We usually bring the annual numbers, we haven't done it yet for last year, but we usually bring the annual numbers to this committee to present and say, hey, here's where we are and here's where we are year over year and here's what our building permits did. But those are two really significant measures of what's happening for local economic activity that aren't directly related to the EDO activity, right? I mean, indirectly, yeah, but like you say, if you're looking for a metric on how do we measure how we're doing and how our economy is doing, we already have some of that stuff built into the website through the tools that we have from local intel, right? Because we have that local dashboard that's available, and any one of us or any of our residents can go onto our website at any point in time and pull up that toolkit and go, wow, well, what's happening, right? What are the major projects? So we have some of the metrics already there. It's just a question of how does the committee want us to have the metrics support our goals, I guess.
Oh, go ahead, Alan.
And that's my question too. Like I look at the RFD and it's asking the committee to indicate which metrics are used to assist in conducting our activities. And as you say, we just, it's kind of a first glance here. My suggestion was to throw it back to our expert and have you massage it and add to it and then bring it back to another meeting.
Yes.
So I'd make a motion to that effect that the Economic Development Committee ask the EDO to take this template and come back with metrics that the committee can consider for measurement of our committee progress.
Can I ask for a friendly amendment and just ask if we can have that to be brought to the March meeting?
Sure. What did I say, a future meeting?
I think so.
Okay, yeah, sure, the March meeting. Does that give you enough time?
That's absolutely perfect, and it makes me even more excited to be able to put this into your guys' hands because I'd forgotten how significant this was. Because there's some really good info that's in here that I'll build into this. So yeah, you bet.
Awesome. Okay, thank you. Any discussion on that motion?
No, I agree.
Okay, perfect. All in favor? Thank you. Alrighty, moving right along. And that brings us into, just a moment, now I misplaced the agenda. Hang on, sorry.
Work plan update 17.
Perfect. Yes, thank you, 17. Take it away, Bert.
Alrighty, thank you very much, Madam Chair. Work plan updates, we've got written summaries of a number of the key events and the key things. The one that I want to make sure we brought the ECDev committee up to speed on is that Small Communities Opportunity Fund application. So this was a window that opened up in November of last year with a January 10th closing deadline. So there was a window of time, but we had discussed it at our previous ECDev committee meeting, and we weren't quite sure exactly what to apply those funds to specifically. And so after doing a bit of a review of what was in the budget and the priorities and the goals there, what I put forward was an application that would be, it's a 2-year funding program. And so we would get approval probably March of this year with sort of one phase starting April, May, and another phase starting September. Each of those running for about a year. So there's plenty of time to kind of, have some committee involvement and to do some things as we're putting the RFPs together and all of that. But the two main components are the application, and they align with information that we drew out of the budget and out of the budget priorities, would be to do an agri-foods local market logistics study. And the second part is to do a economic development best practices benchmark study. And so the first one on the local market and the agri-foods, we've talked several times around this committee table about what are some of the issues that our local producers have? Where can they take their goods? How do we be able to help to define and show them where some of the markets are and all of that? That's really kind of the focus of what that first piece is. The second piece, and this is where, again, I'm going to go back to the EDRAP, because in that Economic Development Rural Alberta Plan, for the first time, they gave a definitive definition of what is rural Alberta. And we fit within those parameters. It's basically a community of less than 20,000 that's more than 100 kilometers away from a community of more than 100,000 that has a large resource base. That's in a nutshell what it is. That wouldn't be verbatim. But what they did was they used that definition that's in EDRAP to be the definition on who's eligible for the Small Communities Opportunity Program. And so with that definition in mind, the idea was, and we've had it on our list for a while, to benchmark ourselves to other municipalities, to say, hey, what is everybody else our size doing for economic development, and how do we measure up? And that's really what the benchmark part of the study is. So for both of those, it's to basically apply for funds, to do an RFP, to have a consultant come in to do the work for us. And then on the benchmark study, the intent would be that as we compile the information, any of the participating municipalities that are willing to give us data, we would certainly share the final report with them and be as interactive and everything as we possibly can with all that. So that's kind of the nutshell on the SCOP. The Agricultural Chronicles, I'm very happy to say that after several delays and some different hurdles, complete and ready to go. So that's version 1, volume 1. And hopefully it's something we can revisit maybe in 2024 to take a look at, doing an update and to kind of keep it going. But it was a labor of love to get it over the finish line. And I really want to reach out and thank all of our partners. I mean, it was a great document and project we did in conjunction with our Ag Service Board, with communications. We had the Woodlands Express involved, as well as TNC Publishing and the Grizzly Gazette all played different roles as we were kind of working through that process. So it's happy to finally have that over the finish line and done and out there. The Woodlands Investment Profile, as I said, we're in the middle of the update there. Small Business Week, I mentioned that. Golden Triangle, we had a meeting on Monday. And Councillor Dean, anything you want to bring forward from the GT meeting?
Well, I mean, there's not a lot of snow out there right now. The clubs are disappointed because of that, but they're ready to go with the Triangle project. It really is, for snowmobile enthusiasts around the province and really Western Canada, it's a pretty unique thing to be able to go from one community to another, and so it's very worthwhile. But one of the components within that Golden Triangle is something called the Iron Sled Challenge. So people that participate in the snowmobile rallies in each of the 3 communities qualify for a special prize. But Fox Creek has essentially said they're not going to be able to hold their rally. Whitecourts is on Family Day in February, so you never know. That's a possibility, but it's just a tough year for snowmobiling right now. But that group, very well organized. Cindy Brooks does a great job coordinating everything, and but they're at the whim of Mother Nature. She's not really cooperating this year. Something called El Nino, I think.
It's coming next year.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, and that was about it for the work plan updates.
Awesome. And is there any further discussion? Like a call for a motion?
Sure. Move that the Economic Development Committee accepts the work plan updates as info.
All in favor? Perfect. And that is carried. Okay, just want to clarify, Bert, for 8.1, the committee recapture. Was there a discussion to be had on that?
Oh, you know what? I'm sorry, did I miss that as an RFD? I know I didn't do an RFD on it, and I probably should have, because I know that's our standard procedure. I apologize, I just completely forgot about it.
No, that's okay. With our discussion prior to the meeting, I don't remember us I thought we weren't gonna have anything under blue sky this time anyway.
Oh,
For some reason, that's what-
Yeah, no, I didn't put anything under blue sky, did I?
No.
No.
Just this 8.1 committee recapture of previous meeting.
Oh, it's
Oh.
probably just a line on the agenda. There is no RFD attached for that. It
Perfect,
was,
okay.
I'm sorry, Madam Chair, now I got it, now I understand. We have that sitting on the agenda as a standard item, so that if there is anything that we've missed from a previous meeting that any of the board members want to bring up, we make sure that we have that as a standard agenda item, and that was by board request last year that we put that on.
Perfect.
So there's no RFD to that effect, but yes, that is there as a 8.1 agenda item.
Oh, okay.
Thank
Then,
you.
that being said, is there any discussion or comments about a recapture for our previous meeting? Okay, then I'm gonna move right on into, we don't have any committee reports currently under 9.1 either. And then for 9.2, and taking into consideration time and our discussion in advance of that, would like to move right to any discussion on the information items that were presented in the package. Okay, and
And further to that, for the sake of time, I appreciate what you're doing there. To me, these information items those are something that it's our responsibility to go through, and if we have things to bring up, we bring up, but I certainly wouldn't want to go through them line by line, so.
perfect.
That
Agreed.
being said,
The good news is there will be an economy in 2024. That's the takeaway.
so I just make a motion that the EDC accept the items presented as information. Sorry, Chair.
That's all I was gonna do.
Awesome. Any further discussion? All in favor? And that is carried. Okay, awesome. Then we are ready to move into our in-committee session. And if you would be able, Bert, I believe to,
Yes, so what will happen at this point is we'll sign off on the public part of the meeting, and any motions that we have to make after we come out of the in-committee, there will be a motion to come out of the in-committee, there will be definitely a motion to adjourn. Should there be any other motions, then those will be part of the minutes for the next meeting, but they won't be part of our visual broadcast. So thanks everyone for joining us on YouTube land, and with that, if you're ready, Madam Chair, we'll note the time and we can make the motion to move in committee.
perfect, and the time is 7:43.
Okay, and motion,
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I'll make the motion, we
Councilor
move into in camera. Under FOIP, section 24, I, A, and C.
Perfect, thank you.
Section 1, B,
Any,
C.
is there any further discussion? All in favor? And that is carried. Thank you.
Can we take
You
a
want to-
5-minute
yeah.
bio break?
Absolutely.
just keeping the stream down.
My allergies been going crazy ever since I sat down.